So what is JPA? JPA is a Java Persistence API. And what we'll have in that, like see in Hibernate, we'll have this structure, model, then HBM, then CFG, and then tester or controller, anything. So in this model, class will have all the entity, like the bean related definition. In this Hibernate mapping, we'll have the table related information, all the table related data. In CFG, we'll have a database related data. Ideally not data, configurations. Right. And in tester, what we'll have? We are working with the session factory. Okay, session and all. But what is in JPA? Like this is the structure of the Hibernate. But in JPA, like if I'm going to copy that, these four sections, and in this model have the combination of model plus this. CFG is converted to persistence.xml. Okay, and tester remains same, but there, see, earlier we were working with the session factory. Now we are working with the entity manager factory. And as well as we are going to work with the entity manager like we did in session. So session will use as that and entity manager will use as your factory. Thing seems fine. Now we can create this project new Maven, skip this archetype next, and this is JPA test. Copy, paste, and then finish. So that project is created. Test JPA. Where is that test JPA? Is it created? Not, this is JPA test. Perfect. Now this is the structure. Okay, so first of all, I need to add POM related things. What I can do, this is my previous code. I'm just going to open this pom.xml and I'm just going to copy these two SAR because I only require these two SAR. Thing seems fine. Now see the tag which we require, that is dependencies. Once again, control space. Dependencies. And in this, we are going to paste all the code. Fine. Now this is our, okay, this is the previous code. This is our Java section. So there we are going to create a class. That class is JPA. No, this should be the model class. So employee. Finish. Now in JPA, you need to define that this is your entity control space, and that should be in a javax.persistence. From where this javax.persistence loaded, that is because of this jar file. If I don't have this jar file, that will not going to work. Let me save this. Immediately I'll got error, which is reflected in this because now I don't have this javax.persistence. So I require that in my Maven dependency. Like this is my Maven dependency. Once I'll save it, that Maven dependency get updated with these zars. So these are the zar Java archive which we required in this code. Perfect. So in this now I'll have this field which is integer ID and string name. I'm going with the same field which we had already declared in Hibernate code. Okay. Now add the rate ID. We need to tell them this is ID. And let me go with this. Right click source once again. Right click source and then generate getter and setter. Select all and then generate. Seems fine. Now I need to tell them that what is the type of this field, that identity. So that identity control space strategy is of identity. Right? It means everything will be provided from the backend itself as a auto increment feature. Now, see, if you want to define, like if you want to create table at this end, so you need to define all the fields, like what is your column name equals to name. Okay, you can define the length, multiple sections we'll have there. Nullable is false. Okay, unique, whatever you want, you can define. But see, we had already defined the data type, so that section is not required. Okay. Second thing, what we require is XML file. So if you'll notice, so whatever we'll have in this HBM file that we had defined there, like this is my entity, and you can provide the table name as well. @table. Table name equals to what is the table name? Employee itself. That works. ID field we had defined, everything we had defined. Okay. Now I need to create a XML file. And what is the location of that XML file? Inside this, in meta INF, the persistence.xml file. So this XML inside a meta -inf folder. So if you don't have that folder, create that in your project structure. I don't have that folder. So I need to create that folder, right? Click new and then folder. What is that folder name? Meta -inf. Finish. And there we need to create a persistence unit XML. XML file. What should be the name? There you need to define the exact name. That what is the exact name of your file. So I'm just going to define that name as a persistence. So PERSISTENCE. Perfect. Okay, if you'll notice, so this is showing cross because that is not having any persistence related definition. So there, as we had defined the DTD related definition, I need to provide that persistence definition as well. Where I can find that, see, I'll already have that in this notepad. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. You can easily find that on internet. That can be easily available on internet. Fine. Now see, now if you'll notice the symbol, so that symbol is changed to this both bidirectional arrow. Let me tell you. Control Z. This is the XML file. If I'll press paste this, so that is converted to bidirectional arrow. Right. But still it is giving us error because that required whatever we had closed, that should open, that should be closed. So let me close this. Persistence close, but again it required some meta tag. What are those meta tag? That meta tag is control space persistence unit. So what is that unit name? That unit name can be anything, user defined value. Like see, I'm using employee persistence, so I can define it as EMP. This is just a communication medium from the tester file. That's it. Okay. Now we'll have a properties. One second. Properties. And inside this properties, we are going to define everything, whatever we had done in the CFG file. All fields remain same, but they only minor change. What is that? There we are communicating with javax.persistence dot. Now you need to define the field. JDBC dot. What should be the first thing? URL. We can define driver as well. Now URL comes in that way. JDBC : MySQL : /localhost : 3306 / database name mytestdb. That's it. And the same thing you are going to write for all the sections, whatever we had done in CFG. Ideally, we required 4 data. So what I can do, one second, let me delete this. Let me remove this value because value is changed for everything. Copy, paste. Now we'll have JDBC dot user name. So what is my username? We can go with root. What is my password? We can go with root. What is my driver? We need to define the driver. What is my driver? com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. The same field which we had already defined in that Hibernate. Right. So that works fine now. One more thing, what we can do, paste. And there I can tell them that my show SQL should be true. This is the feature of Hibernate. So I can type Hibernate dot show _ SQL. What is the value? True. So that we can get query on the front end. Right, that seems fine. Now I think this file is perfect. Let me remove this getup. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Now next what we require there, next we require a tester class. Right click new class. So see, I named it as tester. Your choice, whatever you want to name it, you can name it as. Okay, like a controller or anything. So let me name it as a tester, go with main and then finish. All right, all right. I think that I created. Okay, this is the file which we have there. One second. Tester main finish. Okay, no problem. Now there we are going to type our code, whatever we had defined there. So what I tell you, I required entity manager factory. Perfect. Reference is factory. And there you are going to call your XML. If you remember, so in Hibernate, ideally what we were doing, in Hibernate, we call that with configuration. There we don't require configuration. Persistence unit can work for us. Persistence. So persistence, this one. Okay, that persistence can create entity manager factory for you. And what is the name we required there? The same name which we had defined in this XML. This name. That name is used for communication. Perfect. So that line is done. Now we required entity manager. Entity manager. Perfect. So what, see, that works same like the session. So entity manager equals to factory dot create, one second, create entity manager. That will create entity manager for you. Now I need to start the transaction. Same approach, entity manager dot get transaction dot begin. So we can start the transaction. And now how can we call the data? Employee equals to new employee semicolon. Right. And then employee dot set name. I think from JPA. Let me check my, this field is auto increment, alter table. And there, yeah, that is auto increment. So that works fine for me. Now I only need to insert name. That's it. And in this, if completion will be done, so you need to persist that with entity manager dot persist. So what is your object? Your object is employee. Perfect. Persistence done. Now we need to commit that. So what you can do, you can copy this line, paste this line, and change this to commit, control space. That works. Now what we can do, we can close our entity manager and we can close our factory. Perfect. Now we can check if we'll face an error, so we can solve it. Okay, so that works. We'll get error. What is that? Not found class com.mysql, spelling mistake. com.mysql. Okay, let me run this again. Okay, again, access to dialect cannot be null. Okay, so we had not set up the dialect. Ideally, dialect should not require, but I don't know why they require dialect. Is there any other thing we can do apart from this dialect? JDBC environment, I'll understand. As driver manager is not mapped properly. All right. So do we have any error in this driver? javax.persistence.driver. So that class seems fine. Let me go with driver underscore class. Let me try. Otherwise, see, last approaches, we need to set dialect. I'm just trying to avoid that dialect. Once again, let me go this with user. Let me try. See that find dialect there. That will automatically find dialect and query run. Let me check values in database. Perfect. Values in database. So it means JPA setup is done. So guys, what is the ideally difference? The difference is there we are working with the model and we don't require the configuration class there in this because entity manager factory can stand alone communicate with XML with just this persistence unit name PU. With this PU name, it can easily communicate. So this is about the introduction of JPA. What are the other operations which we'll have there? So like say if I want to perform update, delete, right? These two operations. So how can I update the data? So for example, this is my tester. Let me create a new tester, new class. So REST operations. Let me go with this main and finish. All right. And let me copy this thing from the existing class. Perfect. So for example, we'll have this entity as an employee equals to now what is the object of my session? That is entity manager dot find. So there it required a class with entity class name and the primary key. So let me provide what is my class. My class is employee dot class and then what is the primary key? For example, let me go with the primary key. What is the data I'll have in database? 14. Fine. So let me find this 14. Sys out employee dot get name. This field ideally I required. Let me try. That is running everything. Okay, I get this name. Perfect. So next what I required in this, let me go with employee dot. One second. And instead of this printing, this is find. Let me update the name. Employee dot set name. So that name is from JPA set or update. Will this update works? So see, I'm just starting this transaction. So I need to perform these two steps as well. Commit and then let me close everything as well. Paste. Okay. Let me run this code again. Okay, so this is update query. Will it work? Perfect. So that works. It means I can easily update my data if I want with the help of that section. Fine. Next, if I want to remove any data, so we'll have that remove option. And with the help of that remove, we can remove our data based on the requirement. So let me try. Employee dot. No, not employee. Let me try. Will it work for us? Ideally, we required one reference as well if we want, but let me check. Will it work for us? Perfect. So that work, delete from employee as well. Perfect. So data is deleted. So this is about the JPA. There, what we had done the insert, update, delete, and find. That's it. Okay, so we left with display complete data, right? So if I want to display the complete data, so ideally I don't require this section. So let me put this in comment. And now what we required the same query. Okay, so query can help us to execute our query. So what is our query? So see, we are going to run our query with the help of this entity manager dot create query. So this is, see, there we'll have the query. So now what is my query? My query is from employee. Again, what is employee? This employee is my model class, guys. That seems fine. Now we can fetch everything inside a list. And what should be that list type? List is of employee type, control space. Let me go with list equals to query dot list semicolon. Now I need to print it in the for loop for each loop. So data is of employee type. Let me give a reference that is E. Where is everything? Everything is in list. Now sys out E dot get name. Let me check. Will it work? Okay, see, we are getting error because that need to be parse to query type. See, that cast to query type. So let me change this to query. Perfect. Save, right click, run as Java application, and what we'll get complete name there, all the names. What ideally, see, you just required that, see, this list is calling the query, that query is calling the entity manager is calling the factory. So you should know only this sections, okay, that what comes there, right? So this is about the JPA and persistence unit. So we covered all the operations which comes under the JPA section using this model class. This model class. That's it, guys. Thank you.